Welcome
to Nerdville.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. You must be cautious.
Hello there, Star Wars fans. Lightsaber crystals, or Kyber crystals, are one of the most interesting parts of the Star Wars universe. These tiny gems hold the key to the heart of every lightsaber, but what are they exactly?
Today we are using canon and legends to explain these crystals. This video will cover a brief history about the crystals, then explain all the different colors, the meaning behind them, as well as examples of which type of Jedi or Sith use them. So let's dive into the history of these mysterious gems.
Thanks for getting us to 300 subs. Be sure to subscribe to our channel.
Do it!
Super easy, you know, and force push that like button.
Kyber crystals, if you didn't know, are naturally occurring in the Star Wars universe, mostly found on planets such as Ilum, Jedha, and Dantooine. They are crystals that have to be mined, most commonly by Jedi Padawans, and are part of the power source of a lightsaber. In the Republic era of Star Wars, the Jedi would use the planet Ilum as their main location for mining these crystals, like we saw in the Clone Wars TV show, as well as in Jedi Fallen Order. These crystals are colorless until they bond with a Force wielder, at which point their color is revealed, usually being a blue or green crystal. And yes, you heard us right, these crystals have a will of their own, since they themselves are imbued with the Force. We have seen this many times in the canon actually. In Season 5, Episode 6 of the Clone Wars, we see one of the Padawans, Gungi, a young Force-sensitive Wookiee, clear his mind of all thoughts to find his crystal and connect with it through the Force. This is the same as we saw in Fallen Order with Cal Kestis. Another example of this in the Star Wars movies would be Anakin's lightsaber, which seems to have a mind of its own, selecting its wielder. All of this is the canon explanation behind the crystals. However, in Legends at least, they are not just naturally occurring.
In Legends, the explanation behind why the Sith use red lightsabers is that they use artificial crystals. A synthetic lightsaber crystal, or synth crystals, only possible through a forging process with special furnaces where the Sith would imbue it with dark side energy. Most synthetic crystals were red due to the forging process, since in Legend, the Sith could not traditionally bond with Kyber crystals. There is a canon version of this, but only seems to apply to red lightsabers. We will go into that when we discuss the red crystal and its origin. It's also important to note that Jedi also used this process when needed, especially after Order 66, where Palpatine took over all of the planets the Jedi used to mine. The best example of this is with Luke Skywalker's green lightsaber. Speaking of which, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the video and explain each crystal, their history, and the meaning drawing from both canon and legend.
Blue lightsaber crystals, in Legends at least, are meant to be wielded by Jedi Knights, which are members of the Order who are more focused on protecting the people. We see this in Star Wars The Old Republic, where when you start your journey out as a Jedi Knight, the crystal you obtain is blue. The color blue is supposed to represent a dedication to justice, as is shown with characters like Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, as well as his son Luke Skywalker. Even though Luke did not build the blue lightsaber, it did fit his ideals at the start of the original trilogy. It's also important to note that there are variations in the classic blue of lightsabers, such as cyan or pale blue. Many fans have their own interpretations of these meanings, such as truth, serenity, and hope.
Now let's get to the green lightsaber. This color is typically chosen by Jedi counselors, representing wisdom and harmony. Jedi who wield green lightsabers often emphasize a deeper connection to the Force and a commitment to diplomacy. Examples would be Grandmaster Yoda and Qui-Gon Jinn. Both masters are well known for their focus on diplomacy and being more in tune with the living Force than most Jedis. Luke is another great example, since he created his green lightsaber at the moment he became an actual Jedi. In his introductory scene in Return of the Jedi, we see how much Luke emphasizes diplomacy while dealing with Jabba, as well as appearing very wise. Many fans believe that green represents growth, harmony, and nature. Green is another color with a few variations, as we see with Ahsoka's lightsabers in Clone Wars, with her Shoto lightsaber having more of a green mint color.
Red crystals, as you may well know, is the color used by the Sith, and only the Sith. What do I mean by this? As we said before, in the Legends explanation of the synth crystals, red crystals in canon as well can only be created by dark side Force users. While light side Force wielders can technically use red lightsabers, like we saw with Ahsoka Tano in Tales of the Jedi and Seer Junda in Fallen Order, they cannot make a clear crystal red. In canon, the process in which the Sith turned their crystals red was revealed in the canon Darth Vader comics. This process is called bleeding, in which a Sith or Darksider must pour all of his or her hatred, anger, and lust for power in a colored crystal, corrupting it. This concept was also incorporated in the Star Wars Jedi Survivor game, where Dagan Gera, a Jedi from the High Republic, who had been frozen in cryostasis, poured all of his frustration and anger about the former Jedi Council into his old lightsaber, making it bleed and turning it red. This was also the case for Kylo Ren in his canon comics. We can assume that this was the same for all of the other Darksiders that have appeared in the canon, like the Inquisitors for instance. The meaning for these crystals are very clearly anger, frustration, and hatred.
Yellow Kyber crystals are rare and have a special significance. Yellow lightsabers are most notably wielded by Jedi Temple Guards. Yellow-based lightsabers signifies their role and dedication. The yellow color is seen as a symbol of protection, justice, and courage. However, fans also have their own interpretation of this, such as power of the sun, hope, and goodness. Aside from the Temple Guards, a prominent character who wields a yellow lightsaber in the main Star Wars saga is Rey. By the way, yellow lightsaber crystals have been wielded by both the dark side and Jedis in legend. As we saw with the children of Darth Vitiate, the former Emperor of the Sith, in the Old Republic era. As the leader of the Knights of Zakul, the princes and princess of Zakul exclusively used yellow crystals. This was to differentiate themselves from the Sith Empire, as well as being a symbol of their status, since yellow or gold is a color associated with royalty.
Orange Kyber crystals are less extensively covered in Star Wars canon, as well as legends, making them somewhat more ambiguous than their counterparts. The only place orange lightsabers have shown up in the movies and TV shows at least is in the Ahsoka show, where these crystals are wielded by Baylan Skoll and his apprentice Shin Hati. While both of them are definitely more dark in nature than Jedi, it wouldn't be appropriate to call them Dark Jedi, since we saw many times in the show that at least Baylan seems to be somewhere in the middle. The significance of the orange color is less defined within the lore, potentially symbolizing a balance between the more commonly known paths of the Force, as we stated with Baylan. This could make sense as it is as close to a bled crystal as can be. Since it is less explored, it offers more room for personal or future canonical interpretation.
Purple is the iconic color of Mace Windu. According to Samuel L. Jackson and George Lucas, this color exists just because the famous actor wanted that color.
Good guys are green and blue, bad guys are red. That's just the way it works.
No purple left?
You might get purple.
But thanks to fandom, we can provide an explanation as to what this color represents. It signifies nobility, royalty, and wisdom. We can see this through Mace Windu. Mace does have a great sense of nobility and wisdom, but his arrogance, due to status, is reminiscent of nobles. Another element is that purple is a blend of blue and red. This could represent a Jedi tapping into the dark side, or the reverse, which would fit Mace Windu and his Vapad form quite well. Another famous user of that color is Revan. This is fitting since in KOTOR and SWTOR, he actively changes between the dark and light side throughout the story.
White is another one of the rarest lightsaber crystals, since much like red, you need a special process to create it. It was revealed in the 2016 Ahsoka novel that the way in which you create a white lightsaber crystal is to purify a corrupted crystal that has been bled. Ahsoka did this once she defeated the Sixth Brother, by purifying the Inquisitor's lightsaber crystal. Why is the crystal rare then? Well, the period of Star Wars, which is covered by the movies and TV show, is the Republic era, where the rule of two has been implemented. Therefore, the Sith are viewed more as a myth.
Possible. The Sith have been extinct for a millennium.
This was also the case in the High Republic, so it was close to impossible to get your hands on a corrupted crystal. Furthermore, we can theorize that because of how dogmatic the Jedi were, it is very likely that this would have been frowned upon, since the crystal would have been previously wielded by the Sith. As for Ahsoka Tano, she no longer considers herself a Jedi after Season 6 of the Clone Wars, so this might be a way to differentiate herself from regular Jedi. However, it is true that the crystals are originally clear, so it could be possible that some Jedi obtained this as a crystal. This could be the case for one of the Jedi lightsaber instructors we saw in Season 6, while Anakin was facing Barriss. As for the meaning behind the color, it would make sense for it to be purity or balance.
Finally, what you've all been waiting for, the Black Kyber crystal. The Black Kyber crystal is not just rare, but unique, as there's only been one, which was introduced in the canon with the Clone Wars series. The dark saber, which houses the Black Kyber crystal, was created by Tar Vizsla, a Mandalorian Force sensitive who was inducted into the Jedi Order at the tail end of the Old Republic era, during the Dragulch period of Star Wars, in 1100 BBY. There's not much information out there on how the Kyber crystal was created, if it is a synth crystal or naturally occurring, but we do have our own theory on how it was born, given what we learned in the Mandalorian TV show. The reason for the Kyber crystal being black could be because of how much the philosophy of the Mandalorians differentiates from the Jedi. So a Kyber crystal might be perplexed by the feelings of the Force-sensitive Mandalorian, explaining why it couldn't choose a color. We have never seen a Mandalorian build their own lightsaber. Even Sabine, who is Force-sensitive and a Jedi trainee, is using a borrowed lightsaber. Another possibility could be because of the material that Tar Vizsla used to create his lightsaber hilt, Beskar. In Boba Fett, when Din was speaking to the blacksmith, he remarks that the Beskar used in the hilt of the darksaber was the purest he had ever seen, which is of black coloration. Perhaps a black crystal cannot be created like the rest of the colors, and is a special case of Tar Vizsla putting a Kyber crystal in the lightsaber hilt that is made out of the purest Beskar, turning it into a black blade. Sadly, until we get a novel or a series covering the history of Tar Vizsla, or a new darksaber is built by either Grogu or Sabine, we will not get the answer to this question. As for the meaning behind the crystal, it is a sign of leadership, as the darksaber was passed down through generations of Mandalorians, eventually making its way to the hands of Darth Maul. The saber would be used as a symbol to rule Mandalore.
A last important point is that the process in which you bond with a Kyber crystal isn't absolutely necessary, since we have seen Jedi use spare crystals in the canon like Ezra did in the Ahsoka TV show, or Jedi who simply repurpose other Jedi's lightsabers. Thanks for watching our video on lightsaber crystals explained. Kyber crystals are more than a power source, they are a reflection of its user. In light of that, which lightsaber crystal do you believe would fit your personality, since the color chooses you, not the other way around? Let us know in the comments below. If you want to learn more about lightsaber combat forms, we have 2 different videos on the subject. Also, if you enjoyed the Ahsoka TV show, be sure to check out our review if you want to understand these characters more.
And may the Force be with you.
Always.